Hello, everyone. This is Bigalski,
And this is JTB.
and it's been like over 3 years since we've done a video. But with the 20th anniversary of Ninja Gaiden coming out next week, hard to believe, and just some Ninja Gaiden 4 coming out, we decided to do a little retro video series, and I'm also going to talk about why the reason I am making this series. JTB, I mean, I think it's hard to believe it's been 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years since NGO4. Well, more than 20 years because that was March, wasn't it? This is
Right?
this is
Yeah.
21 years actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
for NGO4.
Yeah.
This is 20 years for NGB.
So I wanted to make a series that spotlighted a lot of the older players from back in the day. I actually scoured the internet Wayback Machine from Iberian Warriors site, Iberian's NG Realm. There was a couple other links, and a lot of the videos that we thought were lost, I found quite a few of them, and I also didn't find a lot of them like Yeb Yosh and some other guys, which we'll get into that later on. But the reason I started thinking about this is I was asked to be a part of a what was it a Ninja Karma system or Karma guide for all four of the games.
It
Is
was a
that what?
podcast. Yeah, it was a podcast about the karma system.
So um, I had actually gotten the invite pretty late, but I read through the thread, and some of the people that they were asking, um, I guess didn't have the higher scores than me, and some of it I wasn't relative to, like Ninja Gaiden 3 in terms of karma or new karma and some of the other ways. But when I declined to do that, I had asked the guy. Uh, he had deleted me from the group, so I wanted to make sure that um, people got to read, why I declined. So I sent him a message, and this is what I wanted to read this. I know some people may think this is petty. Some people may think I shouldn't do this, but the reason I am is it's really this message that gave me the great idea to find these older videos and show uh, how long the game has been out, what has been done. I mean, didn't you say once, JTB, that uh, people might find something and think it's the newest thing, but more than likely it was done 18 to 20 years ago?
More often than not, yeah, especially with a game like this that's always had like a very small but dedicated kind of scene. There's a lot of stuff. I've mentioned it if anyone's watched any of my streams. That there's always at least like one thing that pops up, and it's the first time someone is seeing it. But the technique or whatever it is often, not always, but very often, like way older than sort of what people are seeing.
So I wanted to read this to everybody, and I had wrote to the guy. I'm not going to mention the guy's name. Uh, I've had dealings with the guy before in the past. It's kind of been cordial. Um, he's a great player and very skillful and good, but just very arrogant and cocky. So I had said that I've already seen that you've removed me from the group, and I wanted people to see it. And he's like, well, why would it matter? And so I put it matters because you invited me to the group, so I wanted people to see my reply. Uh, I'll be honest, I actually found it insulting, as I was kind of a last resort that they couldn't find others. And even some of the others that they tried to find who ended up saying no still didn't have the karma scores that I had from back then. And I had told them I'd done a lot for the community, and that JTB and myself were the only ones from the beginning that had the top 10 scores in Ninja Gaiden 4, the Hurricane packs, Ninja Gaiden Black, and Ninja Gaiden Sigma. And I said it was our videos that helped others. Just some history if you're going to be talking about karma. And he's like, the message is still there. And they were talking about who suggested me to come in the group. But this is what he said that really it irritated me. I'm not going to lie, but it got me to think. He goes, bit of advice though, Big Al. This group is about people who are experts in the game and are karma running currently, not about who has done less or more for the community. And I'll say this, the experts in the game that they had weren't really experts like, let's say Kel or maybe Dark Father Time, and none of the guys that they had asked were currently karma running. He goes, I know that you're older than us, and I respect my elders because of their age. But the way you talk is extremely out of touch, which I don't understand that. I talk about my experiences and I talk about the game in the past. He said, karma running hasn't been relative in many years. And and then I started thinking to myself, well, if it hasn't been relative in many years, then why are you trying to make a series on karma running? I mean, that was right there. But he said, I'm sorry to say it, but neither have you. He goes, you're not passing the torch. It was taken from you many years ago by many people. Karma ran all versions of Ninja Gaiden 1, but what else did you do? You didn't speed run, you didn't challenge run, you didn't play stylishly, you were never relevant in any of the other NG games. And then he says, bring it down a notch. I mean, he's telling me to bring it down a notch when he's saying all this stuff to me. He goes, having been amongst the first doesn't equal being amongst the greatest. Pioneering doesn't equal excelling. Living from the glories of the past is kind of on the sad side, Big Al. Remember when is the lowest form of conversation. Like Tony Soprano wisely said, you should let it go already. He goes, and then he goes, I hope you're able to read this with a cool head and take it to heart. I only have respect for you. However, you really needed to hear this. Good luck and have fun in Vegas trip with the gang. So that, I'm not lying, it rubbed me the wrong way. I talked to a few people about it. They all felt he was a little out of line with it. And,
Not to mention ignorant.
you know, but I started thinking about what he had said. You're not passing the torch. It was taken from you. If you quit playing, Kiori quit playing. Did Kel take the torch from Kiori?
Yeah, that's actually a great point that you bring up there. Actually, there is also a difference between sort of losing the torch and like just moving on.
Right. And back then, I moved on a lot. I broke 24 million. I knew what I was going to take. Kiori came out a few months later, broke 24.9 million, and then people started taking it to an extreme. So, that right there, that was one thing I didn't understand. I mean, if you stop playing, how does the that, to me, I'm passing the torch. If like you tell people, hey, if you want to beat my, record, I'm passing the torch to you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you beat it, okay, well maybe you can say, well, I took it from JTB. Well, I stopped playing, so you could, I mean, you could look at that a lot of different ways. But the other parts that he said is, you didn't speed run, you didn't challenge run. I actually did a speed run back in when I'd only first started playing. I'd only been playing a few months, and it was terrible, and it was slow, but it was still like 2.5 hours. But none of the shortcuts were known at the time. The stadium skip wasn't there. The red room, blue room in the pit in Chapter 7 wasn't known. The strategies of today, all of that's been refined over the years. But I did do a speed run back in the day. I think my videos are up there, and like I said, they're terrible. They're way outdated. They're 20 years old. But I've done a no Nimpo original life bar in both Ninja Gaiden 04 and Ninja Gaiden Black. Here's a couple of pictures showing me doing that. In terms of Sigma, because he said I wasn't relative in any other game. You can look up the Brooklyn Rail. There was a article written about Ninja Gaiden, and it sits there and says that I was the #1 player across multiple categories when I had quit. So again, he doesn't know what he's talking about, which is what led to this series. Here's Ninja Gaiden 3. I was in the top 3 on that, but if you look at the time that I did versus the time the other guys had done, back when Ninja Gaiden 3 came out, and this is vanilla NG3, before Razor's Edge, you could like throw shurikens at some enemies and they respawn. I think they were the Beatles. So that's where these guys got a lot of their points from, is they just shot or just threw the shurikens, leave the scene, come back out. So you could tell the time that they put in compared to me and some of the other players. And then on Ultimate Ninja, again, the guy kind of did the same thing, his time versus mine. So I was in the top then. So again, for him to say I wasn't relative in any other game, Ninja Gaiden 2, I believe I had over 65 million and was in the top 5 on that. And that was what, one hit Kasurigama UTs for 20 hours, for people to get, 80
20 hours.
million.
Yeah, 20 hours would be a fairly casual run, honestly. Like,
right.
It's much more than that.
Yeah. So, I didn't do any of that. But, so for him to say I wasn't relative, or, what's the word? Relevant. There we go. Yeah.
I mean, people know what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, he just didn't know. He just doesn't know. Mm-hmm. That's the thing about the people who have been out for the last 5 or 10 years. They just don't know, because a lot of these videos were lost. So we're going to go through that. Whenever I make this series, I'm going to be spotlighting some other players I'll talk about here in a second. But, before Discord, I mean, after GameFAQs and Tecmo, when Iberian Warriors site came out, this was before Iberian's NG Realm. But look at the dates, November 28th, 2005. That's when these forums started coming up and people started helping. God, look at some of these names, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, looking at that, and just to touch on real quick, because what you mentioned about the whole torch mentality and that, and I think that brings up a point that, well, it touches on a point that I've talked about a lot in the past as well. We have as well on our commentaries, is like that point sort of makes you think about sort of the reasoning why, and this is something that I've touched on as well. Like, you can look at it as, why are you doing X, Y, or Z in this game? Like, is it because you want to help people, or is it because you want props? And this is something that, and this is not applicable to anyone in particular, but just a more general statement. I think nowadays, especially with the sort of like surgence in like streaming and content and how that's become a means to make money as well. I mean, when we did this, way back when, and not to just talk about the old days, but there was no money in it back then. There are people now who like speedrun as a job. It's a very, very different ecosystem as to what it was years and years ago.
And I was going to just say real quick, it actually cost money. If you
a
wanted
lot
to put
of
your
money.
Videos out,
yeah, yeah.
Because this was really before YouTube, and I remember I used to rent a site, and I think somebody had said that about I'd help fund money to host. Like you were talking about FileFront and some of the other services back then. You had to, get to pay, or if people wanted to download. I mean, maybe FileFront was free, but there was a few other places that you had to buy.
Yeah, there was.
And that's what led to Iberian coming out.
And
I think
correct
we
me
talked about. Go ahead.
Sorry. No. I say, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the hosting bill for Iberians back then like $2,000?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot. And to, again, people listening to this now, we may sound like just old farts, fair enough. But there is a world of difference between that and just being able to host, terabytes on YouTube for free. Well, not only for free, but to be able to make money doing so. So that's sort of, and that's something that, with NG4 on the horizon, I've mentioned this in sort of fits and bursts on my stream, but that's something that, it's one of the concerns I have about the game in a way, in that like when it comes out, it's just going to be a race for people to get credit instead of doing stuff because you actually want to like contribute and and help people. Yeah, as I said back then, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like tarring everyone with this brush, but back then, people did this stuff out of passion. Nowadays, there are definitely people who still do it out of passion, but there are also those who do it for either props or money or both. So I think that mentality is important to highlight, in that passing the torch, so to speak. It's like, well, that's assuming that you're looking at it from that perspective, and in this era, like, don't get me wrong, there are people who definitely did. Um, Early on, when I first started doing videos, I was 16. I'm not 16 anymore. I was definitely motivated by, like, oh yeah, like, I feel like I'm pretty good. I want to do this, but there was also the element of I want this information out there. Like, this might seem crazy. Well, this probably does seem crazy now as a point to people because, again, streaming and content is so popular. But there was an era where people didn't want to share strats or techniques
Right.
because, back in those days, like, if you got X score, it was much harder to debunk, something being fake if you didn't have a video. You needed. We've said this as well in the past. If there's any karma run that could get past us, fair play, because if there is a mistake in there, like, or a cut or something where you're trying to pull a fast one, and I'm not saying this to, like, boast. It's just we've played the game for a long time. We know this stuff very well. We'll find it if it's there because you can't cheat that system.
Right.
So back then, withholding information was a pretty good way to preserve your prowess, for lack of a better word. Like, if you didn't want people to beat a score, you just didn't tell people how you got it. That was pretty straightforward. Whereas nowadays, it's like the phrase like "pix or it didn't happen" was a thing, years ago. Now it's just vids or it didn't happen.
Right.
And that might sound insane to anyone that's a little bit younger, because the idea of doing something with the goal of, like, setting a record but not proving it is kind of nuts.
Right. And that's another reason why we're making all this, just so people will understand where it all came from. I remember, I think it was Platinum. Platinum had kind of jumped up above everybody else, and people were like, "Well, how did you do it?" And he didn't want to. He didn't want to say it at first, and
Yeah.
then they finally started doing it. Captain Tuttle finally, he broke 5 million, but he finally, made videos showing, and they were innovative, but people just didn't want to do that, and it was like, look at me. And the one thing I want to say is I'm not trying to, hey, look what I have done over the years. It's not about that at all. It's just me kind of proving that this guy didn't know what he was talking about. And, he thought of a certain thing and it just wasn't that way. I mean, some of the stuff that I came up with years ago are still relevant. My no look attack, people used to laugh at me. Oh, you're scared to face the enemies. I'm like, no, I want to charge a UT and have it ready because of the time limit. It
Yeah.
wasn't that I was scared to face, and that is still used today. The karma trick, the Inazuma karma trick on the final form is still used today. I'm not saying I'm the great. I mean, hell, I'm here with JTB. I'm just Big Al, but I was able to help people at the end of the day. And some of the things that this guy have said and done, and maybe people can figure it out. He's like, "Oh, look what I've done, and I have a world record, and I've done something that nobody else has done before." Instead of saying, I'm trying to help people and showcase and make it easier for them, and that's something JTB and I have always tried to do.
Yeah, and I've said over the years as well, I think that's, and people can disagree because it is just my 2 pennies, but I think that's the best way to go about it. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this so many times over the years, I get sick of hearing it myself, but at the end of the day, the average person does not care about, the like, right now I'm working on a couple of missions in NGB because we're getting close to 60 million. 99.99% of anyone that's ever touched NG does not care about that. They don't. And I'm not saying that as a dig. Like, it's just a matter of fact. Like, look at the numbers. Like, look how many views karma runs get versus walkthroughs,
Right.
tutorials.
Yeah.
Like, the
Right.
numbers just don't. Like, the average person just doesn't care. And if you hear that and not really sure, like, look at, think of a game that you just enjoy, that you're not, like, super into. Are you looking up, like, the craziest, like, high score stuff for that game? Like, probably not. You're probably looking up, like, oh, where's all the secrets? Where's all the treasures or something? That's
Right.
probably what you're looking at. And that's where, and I've said this as well, and I'll reiterate it again for this video because it's a bit more concise, but I would say over half of the amount of like walkthroughs and tutorials I've ever made were because you gave me the idea for them.
Oh, oh,
There's a lot of things that I like people will ask like, oh, like where did you get the idea for this or something? I was like, oh, well, me and Al were talking once, and you would ask like, oh, how do you do that or how do you do this? Whereas the pitfall with that is, someone that already knows isn't going to ask that question. Someone that
right,
already knows, how to, cook a perfect steak isn't going to ask you, oh, how do I do that? Whereas,
right.
it's the people that don't know are the ones you want to kind of target with information because there's a lot more of those people. And again, I don't mean that as a dig. There are
No,
plenty of games. At the end of the day, there are way more games that you're sort of average at or less than average at than you excel at because you just don't have the time to be amazing at everything.
yeah, yeah. Very few, unless they just put out. That's all that they do, and we like to do other things,
Yeah.
and but the games that we do like, we focus on that. It's funny because I mean, a perfect example of that is the Ninja Gaiden, uh, 2004 very hard horseman fight in chapter
Hmm.
2. It was we were kind of talking about it when we were with Weeble and P. Sarin about making that time limit and stuff, and then it came up with you kicking the horses in the rear to stall them to where you could make the time limit. But
Yeah.
up until then, nobody really tried to do it or thinking about doing it, or there's been times in the past it's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yep.
So uh, we're all trying to help and learn, and not show off or be arrogant or cocky about it, which is, I think, what that message was. And just to reiterate again, it's because of that message that I'm going to be making this series, this retro video series. So, here was one of the first sites. I mean, again, almost 20 years ago.
I'll just say
Whenever,
one thing real quick on that as well.
yeah,
People that watch the retro stuff, you'll be surprised how old some of this stuff is.
right,
You will. Like
yes,
you'll really be surprised how old some of this stuff is. Like, um, I can't remember exactly because you know, I'm not perfect, but I want to say Platinum was one of the first people to show like XY on landing Y for the last enemy in a fight, like an ET to a UT.
yes, and
I'm pretty
smoke
sure
bombs.
yeah, and smoke bombs, and it's, you know, a lot of people, a lot of people that I've seen over the years, mention in my videos about I never used smoke bombs until I watched your video, and I thought, well, that's really cool, but I wasn't the first.
Right, right. And the other, one of the players that I found, the majority, I think I found all of them except for one or two, was Kiori's original 24.9 million Karma run on Master Ninja. And again, this was done back in 2005, 2006, maybe 2006. But he
I think
doesn't
that was
even use
2006. Yeah, I think Curies was 2006.
he doesn't even use smoke bombs then. So I was really surprised when I started watching the first few chapters of that. So again, we'll get to all of that stuff, but this is where we all started coming together and helping each other at Iberian site, at the forum. And if people didn't want to help, they weren't. I don't want to say that they weren't welcome, but because we all tried to help each other, and that was the one main thing about this forum versus like maybe GameFAQs or some of the other places that were out at this time. But again, 20 years ago, going to this next picture, again, Iberian Warriors video game site, Ninja Gaiden video game site. Or maybe not game, I'm just saying that. But look at that. Congratulations to Edge for breaking 50 million in NGB mission mode.
Yeah.
So this was before anybody else. And Edge had some great videos. I couldn't find a lot of his. He had some funny wooden sword videos, which other people started doing because of that. So, but you can see the layout, the help that we did, the videos that came out. Here's some of the player pages. Unfortunately, this didn't. Uh, the screenshot that I found wasn't all the way through, but here's some of the video, the player pages from the beginning that we used. Some of them I couldn't find, their stuff on here, clicking on these links and digging through. They weren't there. This is one of the newer ones, or whenever Iberian's NG Realm came out. It wasn't the final one that Sabier had made. I couldn't find that again. But look at the high scores. I mean, Platinum
Hmm.
had 55.6. Now Kel has, what does Kel have? Is he
I
58
think he's
again?
on 58.6.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just
And
thought.
like anyone listening, like don't take my laugh as like a dig. It's just back there again. This is just going back a long way. Like 55 million back then was an insane score. Like
Right.
it's kind of hard to put into words like how crazy having 55 million was back then.
And
This
he
is like
figured
year
all,
one, pretty like year one, year two, pretty much of the game.
and like I said, they figured all of this out without the videos. Now we discuss things, but I mean, he came up with a lot of strategies, and it just slowly happened. Now you can get 59 million on video.
Yep.
If you want to figure out how to do all the missions and break the high scores, watch the videos that they have. Back then, that there wasn't. And I mean, look at the story mode for Ninja Dog, normal, hard, very hard, and Master Ninja. I mean, that was a top score on Master Ninja, 23. This was before Kiori had done his run. Trent Steele, I have some of his videos that I'm going to be making. But the game has just totally evolved, and I'm glad it still is. I mean, some of the new strats, Dark Father Time is making some very good, interesting strat videos. That's something new. He's some of the fights in chapter 4 and 5 that people would do back in the day. He's actually doing them in chapter 7, utilizing the gleaming blade to get 2 UTs on an enemy
Mm-hmm.
before they dissolve. Even that's new, so it's still coming about. Um, and then here again, here's the other sides. There's Iberian Warrior that he had posted up. This was before the new final. But see, look at this. Due by midnight, November 15th, 2006. Yebyo's designing the score stuff. I mean, how we all just helped each other's out. The music videos, the speed runs, the music videos. I think Pokey had a funny video that he had done. Challenge videos,
Yeah,
techniques.
shout outs to Pokey actually. Any if anyone is watching that was into DMC back then, he was mainly a DMC player. He was really well known in DMC 3 primarily, but he also played quite a bit of NG. And yeah, like one thing, can give him a quick shout out just in case it's not on video. In chapter 12, where you jump off the little platform, throw your shurikens, do Helm Splitter to spawn the ogre, and stay on the platform. That like he figured that out. Like that was something that he thought of.
Right, right. Yeah, Pokey 86, I believe, was his
Yep. Yep.
name. So, and going to this last one. So here's some of uh, the players in the day with their videos, and whenever I would try to click on them, some of them would be there, but a lot of them weren't. Yebyos, you could see it's a different color at the bottom because I tried to find some of his videos, and all of them were gone, unlabored. All of his videos I couldn't find. Uh, Elfin lied. Fat Man. Oh, I wish people could see some of Fat Man's videos. Even Foreman's Ninja. I forget the name of the video series. He only did like chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. But where he would do like voiceovers, and he would like went up to Maramasa and he's like, Skittles now. I'll never forget that. It was funny.
He's still
Uh,
around. He did comment on some of my HP stuff and some of
oh,
the recent stuff. Yeah, he's yeah. I say like some of Edge as well. Edge is still around. So
mm-hmm. Razor Ramon. Uh, the strategy with in right before you fight Mariah in chapter 1, where you flip up and break the little tiki torch to get the essence and let them come up. Charge a UT, then jump back down, then jump back up. Razor Ramon's the one who came up with
mhm.
that.
He was always one
That
of my favorites because he was never really a
yes,
karma guy back then. And this might surprise people, but I wasn't originally.
right,
Um, it's like I say, I spent most of my time doing challenge runs way back when. Like karma stuff didn't come around for me until like a couple of years into the game. But Razor Ramon was always for my money, like I think he was always one of, if not the best, just kind of pure combat player at the time.
Right.
Like his he just didn't care about score. Like it just never really like hooked him.
Well, I have some of his videos that I'm going to be making. Kip was another player that was very good. I think he had some really good uh, military destruction too with the tanks. He had some good videos. He was one of the first, and I think Trent Steele also did it no items, which everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's impossible." This
Yeah, I
mission
mean
sucks.
that mission really was kind of a mountain. So yeah, MD2 back then, like a lot of people might not remember, that was I'd still say it is probably one of the hardest missions to do. Like no items and no nimpo. But that mission was like a real mountain for people at the time. Like just the idea of beating that mission, and I'm talking about normal, not even Master Ninja. Like beating that mission back then was kind of nuts because you really don't get a whole lot of items. I can still remember that was the last mission I did on Master Ninja way back when. Because again, this was when there was a just real quick, like we had ranks back then on the forum, and one of them was for just beating every mission on Master Ninja.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that was a pretty huge. And here's the thing, like not to just like that is still a huge accomplishment.
right, right.
It is, even if you use like all your items, all your info, like the amount of people, and it's hard to track because now, again, back then you didn't have stuff in place for this, but the amount of people that have actually done that is, in the grand scheme of things, is pretty small.
Right. I remember going back, to the guy who wrote that comment to me about, the arrogance and not, and just some of the things that he said. Well, we had ranks, and one of the ranks that we had was a platinum rank that we had named because of platinum. But because of his attitude and his cockiness and how he would talk to people. Now again, this is not a dig on him personally. This is just how it was back then. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't heard anything from him or seen anything from him in, well over 15 years. But, people didn't like having the platinum rank sometimes. So
Yeah.
so because of that. So just because you're a great player doesn't mean people are going to really respect you as a person. And that was something that I ended up telling that guy. I think you're a hell of a player. I just think you're a dick outside of that. And again, this goes back to a lot more. If I told people all of the story, but again, I'm not going to do that. But you know, try to help. Be respectful. Whenever I start making this series, understand, wow, this was groundbreaking back then, and we've used it going forward. So going on to our next screen here. So these are all the people that I've been able to find, and the ones with the folders are the ones that have multiple videos in there. And what I plan on doing, Shinobi is going to be my first guy, and his contribution to the game can't be understated because I know a lot of people would have quit playing in Ninja Gaiden 2004 just trying to get past Alma. And he's the one who showed on video how to do once she swoops or stomps to do the hold Y to knock her down. Most people just kept trying to flying swallow her, thinking that was the only way that you could get through it. So I'm going to show all of his videos. I'm going to put all of these videos, like I think he has most of Ninja Gaiden 2004 on very hard. So I'm just going to make one big video. I'm not going to do a lot of commentary. JTB's not going to commentate because again, people are going to see this and oh, well, I already know that. But I'm putting it out there because a lot of these we thought were lost forever, and I at least want to get them on YouTube. So, Razor Ramon, his Got You 5 is really good. Tekken had a freeform video. Just some of the stuff. Foreman's HP1, that he did. There's a couple of Edge videos on there. Dragon was a really good. Dark Azuki had some great Military Destruction 4. I think him and Kiori were some of the first ones who did that no hurt. You know, I hate
Yep.
that mission.
Fury was the
Yeah,
first. Because for a long, again, just another little bit of history. For the longest time, you know, I remember when we had that thread for mission mode no damage videos. This was when it was just no damage and not even no damage, no nimpo. A lot of the military destruction row was just considered impossible.
right. Yeah, yeah. Whoops. So, I think we're kind of going back between screens and things like that. So I got to put all this stuff together after this is over. This is all the behind the scenes that people don't see about making a video like this. So I think it's going to be an interesting series. I think now it's going to take me a while to do it. I did buy an upscale program because I just put out a video talking about 20 years of vid making, and it was a video JTB and I did back in 2018. I kind of stuck it between my normal chapter 16 run before I fought Evil Mirai, Fiend Mirai, and just talked about how we did that. And I think it kind of got lost. So I just posted that up. But a lot of these videos are at 320 by 240, very low quality. The upscale program.
Bit rates double digits.
Yeah, yeah.
I
mean,
man, the early days for videos, man. And not to sound like a broken record, but like nowadays, and it's just one of those things, But nowadays, man, it is so easy to make videos.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people just do not know like the hassle it was to do videos back then.
Well, now, one guy was asking me about my setup and what do I use and stuff like that. And he's like, I just use the Xbox capture, but it only allows me to capture 5 minutes. Then I download it on my phone and then post it up to YouTube. It's like,
Yeah.
back then.
That reminds me of the old DVD recorder method. It's not too far removed if you think about it, because that was someone asked about that in Discord a while back, and I posted a brief message. I used a DVD recorder for probably 7 years, maybe. That's how I did all my videos back then.
Well, if people haven't watched it, watch the video I just put out, the 20 years of making, and it talks about all the stuff. Like I used to use a VCR. When I first started, going through and having to get a dazzle and a hookup, and they didn't have Elgatos and some of the other ones, Hauppauge or something, Hauppage or something like that, was one of the video record boxes that you could hook into and everything like that. But, these videos, Kiori's videos, they had to be under 100 megabytes just to be able to put it on YouTube back in the day. So
I think it was 150. Not to be too pedantic, but yeah, I think it was 150 megs and it was 10 minutes. The only reason I remember that so much is because when I used Windows Movie Maker, that had one option that determined like your file size, and it was just your bitrate.
right.
But you couldn't choose like a custom bitrate. It was either basically it was either good, okay, or a block puzzle quality. And to get it under 150, you had to pick the block puzzle quality option. So it was always, your videos always look terrible because of that.
So just to finalize all of this out, I was a little irritated at what the guy had sent because, again, all I'd ever tried to do was help. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge. I don't have the skill that I used to have in terms of my knowledge, but I still understand what I'm seeing and know what I'm talking about on quite a bit of things. And if not, I have no problems asking or wanting to learn about it. And again, I wasn't trying to showcase or brag, hey, look what I've done. It was more about, here's a young kid who doesn't understand, and this just kind of shows that I have been able to do things over the past, and other people have done way more, way better things that I have that people may not even know about. So that's what this whole series is going to be about. I think it's going to be a very good series. It is going to take me a while to do it. I'm sure Ninja Gaiden 4. Whether this gets a lot of views or not, that's not the goal. It's to preserve the history JTB and I talked about, look at all the stuff that was lost when Iberian shut down. If JTB hadn't have talked to Dark Hazuki about catching or keeping Ninja Archives, and we changed it to NG Realm, all of that would have been gone. And so what, like
Yeah.
10 years of history from the site would not be there. So, and maybe,
Yeah, that was 2012, I want to say, Ninja
yeah,
Archives.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2012. Yeah.
And so, and here's the other thing too that I'm sure people get tired of hearing me say, but I say it because I am older. I'll be 59 in a few months. I understand that time is going by, and I want to preserve the nostalgia. And there's nothing wrong with moving forward and getting better, but what do they say? Understanding the past helps you, with the future, because it's all about experience and learning and moving forward. So I think it'll be a fun series. And if anybody has any comments or questions or ideas, or please let me know that. And I think that's about it. I mean, any other final comments you want to say, or
I think I could see more people being interested in sort of the history stuff now, just because that's something that I think more and more people do like to see. Like, if you've ever watched, anyone that's watching this one, if you've ever watched like a history of a speedrun video, like that stuff's super interesting.
right?
That stuff, it seems like much more of a thing in like speedrunning now. Like, what came before is kind of like really valued because it does pave the way to a certain extent of like what can be done. Like, what people are doing now is done because of what was done before.
Right.
So.
Well, I think people are going to enjoy this, and I just want to thank JTB for doing it. God, it's hard to believe it's been about 3.5 years since we've made a video, but I enjoyed it as always, and we'll see you in the series. Take care, everyone.
Catch you later, guys.